A conversation I had with a friend of mine, I'll call him Zane. Zane is a decent guy, educated, emotionally aware, not the type who ghosts people or plays games. He came to me genuinely confused about why a woman he'd been seeing for 2 months had suddenly gone cold on him. He said, "I don't get it. Everything was going fine. We were talking every day. She seemed happy. And then one night she just pulled back. And I have no idea what I did wrong." So I asked him to walk me through the last few conversations they had. And within about 3 minutes, I spotted it. Clear as day. She had asked him 2 things, 2 completely ordinary sounding questions, and both times he had answered them at face value. Technically correct, completely wrong. That's what we're talking about today. Not tricks, not manipulation tactics, not some list of signs she likes you that you'd find on a forum from 2009. We're talking about something more fundamental. How women actually communicate when they want emotional and physical closeness, and why the gap between what they say and what they mean is so consistently misread by men who are otherwise pretty switched on. This is going to take about 10 minutes of your honest attention, and I think it's worth it. Why women don't just say it. Before we get to the specific questions, we need to address the obvious one. Why don't women just say what they mean? And I want to answer this without being dismissive because I've heard the frustration from men's side too. Why does everything have to be a code? Why can't she just tell me? Fair question. Dare question. Here's your honest answer. Based on years of thinking about this, it's not a game and it's not manipulation. It's risk management. When someone expresses desire, romantic, physical, emotional, they're making themselves vulnerable. And vulnerability, by definition, means you can get hurt. Rejection isn't just an abstract concept. It's embarrassing. It lingers. For some people, especially women who've been dismissed or made to feel too much in the past, putting themselves out there directly feels genuinely dangerous. Not life or death dangerous, but emotionally dangerous. So what do people do when they want something but aren't sure it's safe to ask for it? They test the waters. They ask adjacent questions. They create situations where the answer can come naturally without anyone having to formally make a move and potentially get shot down in front of the other person. This isn't unique to women, by the way. Men do versions of this too. They just tend to do it in a more action-based way, like finding excuses to be physically closer or creating opportunities for something to happen organically. Women do it more through language. Deborah Tannen, a linguist who has spent decades studying gender and communication, made a distinction that I keep coming back to. She described women's conversational style as more focused on connection building and men's as more focused on information exchange. Neither is better, but they lead to genuine miscommunication when neither person knows the difference is happening. So when a woman asks you something, she's often not asking for the information. She's asking to see if you're with her, emotionally present, paying attention to more than the surface of the conversation. With that in mind, let me tell you about the 2 questions. The first question is, what are you thinking about right now? I know it sounds like nothing. It sounds like filler. It sounds like the kind of thing someone says when there's a lull in the conversation and they want to fill the silence. Sometimes that's exactly what it is. But here's how you tell the difference. Context and tone. If she's scrolling her phone across from you at breakfast and says, "Hey, what are you thinking about?" That might just be idle curiosity. But if it's later in the evening, if the 2 of you have been talking for a while or watching something together, or you're sitting close and things feel warm and a little charged, and she turns to you and asks what you're thinking, that question means something different. What she's actually asking, underneath the literal words, is something like, are you present right now? Are you thinking about us, about this moment, about me? Can I trust that your mind is here and not somewhere else? She's not asking you to perform some deep philosophical monologue. She's asking if you'll let her in. And this is where most men fail. Not because they're emotionally unavailable, but because they answer the wrong layer of the question. The wrong answer. Nothing. Just tired. Or work stuff. Or a shrug. Not because those things are lies. Maybe you were thinking about work. But answering literally without acknowledging the bid for connection underneath the question, reads to her as a door closing. You're here, but you're not here. A better answer doesn't have to be poetic. It just has to be present. Honestly, I was just thinking about how easy it is to be around you. I was miles away, but now I'm back. I'm glad I'm here. Even something simple like just thinking about this, us talking, I like this. What you're communicating is not the content of your thoughts. You're communicating, I see this moment, I value it, I'm not somewhere else. John Gottman, a psychologist who spent about 4 decades studying couples, found that one of the most reliable predictors of relationship longevity was how partners responded to what he called bids for connection. These bids are small moments, a touch, a look, a question, where one person reaches toward the other. Partners who consistently acknowledged and responded to those bids stayed together at dramatically higher rates than those who didn't. What are you thinking is a bid? A small, low-risk, deniable bid. She's reaching toward you. What you do next matters more than you think. The second question is, are you tired? And if your reaction is, that cannot possibly be significant, I understand. It sounds like the most boring question in the English language. It sounds like something you'd ask your dad after he's been in the garden all afternoon. But timing is everything. Think about when women ask this question. Rarely at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, almost always at night, after time spent together, after a dinner or a long conversation, or a movie where the two of you ended up closer on the couch than when you started. After a moment where the energy between you has shifted, gotten warmer, quieter, more charged. In that context, are you tired? Is not a question about sleep. It's a question about availability. What she's really asking is tonight still going somewhere? Are you present enough for what I'm hoping might happen? Or is this where you shut down and I go home? She phrases it about fatigue because it gives her and you a graceful exit if the timing isn't right. If you say, yeah, I'm pretty wiped out, she can nod and say goodnight. And no one has to feel the sting of a direct rejection. It's conversational self-protection. But if you say, no, not at all, with warmth while looking at her, she has her answer. The evening doesn't have to end. There's space for something more. The reason this second question matters so much is that it represents the final check before she decides whether to move forward. The first question, what are you thinking, was emotional. It tested whether you're present with her internally. This question tests whether you're available to her physically and practically. Together, they're a 2-part read of whether right now is a moment she can trust and move into. A Kinsey Institute study found that one of the most commonly reported barriers to intimacy among women in relationships wasn't lack of attraction to their partner. It was feeling disconnected or sensing that their partner was checked out, mentally or emotionally somewhere else. Women's desire, more than men's, is contextual. It needs the conditions to be right. It doesn't just switch on regardless of emotional atmosphere. So when she asks if you're tired, she's checking if the conditions are right. And a lot of men, without knowing it, tell her they're not. Not by what they say, but by how they say it. Distracted, half present, already thinking about tomorrow. Be in the room, be in the moment. Tell her clearly, warmly, that you're not tired at all. What happens when you miss both? Here's what I want you to sit with. When a woman asks one or both of these questions and doesn't get the response she was hoping for, she doesn't argue. She doesn't explain what she actually meant. She doesn't give you a second chance with clearer instructions. She files it away, not out of cruelty, out of self-preservation. She updates her internal read of the situation. This person isn't quite tracking me. He's here, but he's not paying attention to me. And she starts protecting herself from that disappointment by pulling back, slowly, quietly, in ways that look mysterious from the outside, but are completely logical from the inside. This is what happened to Zain's situation. She'd asked both questions over the course of 2 different evenings. He'd answered them both accurately and meaninglessly. And by the time I was talking to him, she'd already made her quiet decision. This isn't about blame. He didn't do anything wrong in any moral sense. He just wasn't tuned in to the right frequency. That's actually the whole message of this video. Not that women are speaking in secret codes that you have to crack, But that communication happens on multiple levels simultaneously. And if you're only operating on one level, the literal informational level, you're going to keep missing what's being offered to you. Sue Johnson, a therapist who developed emotionally focused therapy and has written extensively about attachment in adult relationships, describes a pattern she calls the protest withdrawal cycle. One partner reaches out, the other partner doesn't respond. Not because they're bad, just because they didn't recognize the reach. Over time, the reaching partner stops reaching, not because they stopped caring, but because it started to feel futile. These two questions are often the last reaches before the withdrawal begins. How to actually respond. I want to be practical here because I think a lot of relationship content gives you the insight and then leaves you stranded when it comes to actual behavior. When she asks, "What are you thinking?" Don't overthink it. Don't panic and try to say something impressive. Just be honest about something that acknowledges the moment. You were thinking about work. You can say that, but bring it back. I was running through some work thing, but I keep getting distracted by how much I like being here with you. You were thinking about something random? Say that too. The honesty is actually part of the appeal. Honestly, something completely unrelated, but now I'm thinking about this. The goal isn't to have the perfect thing to say. The goal is to show up, to respond to the emotional layer of the question, not just the informational one. When she asks, "Are you tired?" read the moment. If you're genuinely at the end of a charged close evening, say no, clearly, warmly, while making eye contact. You don't need a clever line. You just need to communicate. I'm present. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. If you're genuinely exhausted and the timing really isn't right, honesty is still the better option than forcing it. But don't confuse genuine tiredness with not noticing what she's asking. The two-word principle, be present. That's it. That's the whole thing. Not more romantic, not smoother, not better looking. Just genuinely fully present in the moments when she reaches toward you. The bigger picture, I want to close with something that I think gets lost in conversations like this. Women are not mysterious creatures operating on a different plane of existence. They're people who have often been taught implicitly and explicitly that expressing desire directly is risky, embarrassing, or unfeminine. So they communicate around it. They create the conditions for something to happen rather than announcing it. Understanding that isn't about learning to manipulate the system. It's about meeting people where they are. It's about recognizing that the person you're with is trying to tell you something important using the safest language she knows and deciding that she's worth the effort of paying attention on that level. In my opinion, the men who are genuinely good at this aren't good at it because they cracked some code. They're good at it because they're actually genuinely interested in the person they're with. They're curious about her. They notice when she shifts. They think about what she might actually be feeling, not just what she literally said. That quality, real curiosity, real attention, is what makes someone feel seen. And feeling seen is, for most people, the foundation of wanting to get closer. Zayn, by the way, did eventually have a real conversation with the woman he was seeing. He told her he'd realised he hadn't been paying attention the way he should have. It didn't magically fix everything. Some things were already too far gone. But she appreciated it. She told him exactly what I told him. She'd asked him those two questions and felt invisible. He said it was the most useful conversation he'd had about relationships in years. Start listening at the right level. The answers have already been given. If this video gave you something real to think about, drop a comment. Tell me about a time you missed a signal like this, or a time you caught one. I read them. And if you want to go deeper on this topic, I put together a video on how emotional safety affects physical intimacy and why so many couples are physically present but emotionally distant. It's linked right up here. Worth your time? See you in the next one.